Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the Florence School District 1 Board of Trustees Public Forum on the 2017 Facilities Update Plan Proposal. A little bit, just a word or two about the format we're going to use tonight. I'm going to give a brief presentation, and then we're going to split into breakout groups. There will be a couple of board members or administrators in each of these groups, and it will allow you to actually to ask questions, get some details that aren't a part of the overall presentation, have some dialogue with those board members, and then if there are questions coming out of that aren't answered, then we will we'll get answers to those. And then after this is completed, we'll compile these questions, and we will get the answers to everything that's been asked tonight to you. So I hope that when you leave here tonight, that you feel good about what you know, and that's ultimately our goal here, is to make sure that you've got the information that you need. When the new Del May Elementary opens next week, it'll be the 5th new school to open in Florence School District 1 in just a little over 5 years. And while the opening of a new school is always exciting, some of the luster is tarnished when you know why we've had to build 5 new schools in such a short period of time. For nearly 20 years, Florence School District 1 didn't build any new schools. It's been 35 years since the district built a new high school. And despite all of the new schools we've built in these past few years, we as a board have known that our current construction pace is not sufficient to extract us from the hole these decades of inactivity dug for us. Despite this new construction, we still have children in old, crumbling schools, some of which cannot be updated adequately with the technology necessary to prepare our children for the 21st century. We have students in some locations crowded into so many mobile classrooms that we literally cannot add any more on the school site. We have schools with programs so successful, drawing students from across the district, that we have to turn down families who want to send their children for lack of space. We have a building plan that we refer to as pay-as-you-go that has allowed us to build these 5 wonderful new schools for our students without incurring long-term debt. For all intents and purposes, when each of these schools opened, they were paid for. And the board members who approved the initial concept of pay-as-you-go many years ago should all be proud of that. But pay-as-you-go has limitations. It only allows us to build one school at a time. So, as exciting as it has been to see the new Del May being built over the past 2 years, it's been equally frustrating knowing that this one project has tied up all of the funds available for capital projects, leaving us no money to invest in new technology for all of our students, or expand and properly maintain our 20 other schools. Although pay-as-you-go works for building an elementary school or a middle school, albeit one at a time, it can't be used to build larger projects like high schools at all. Now, at the elementary school level, pay-as-you-go has been successful in addressing overcrowding in some areas, but only after years of waiting and only in those few areas that we've been able to get to, which is another limitation of pay-as-you-go, because we still have these aging and inadequate facilities that are decades away from help. And that's a question that we get all the time. So how long do I have to wait for my school? And so tonight, let's try to answer that question. What we've done is taken pay-as-you-go and had projected out to address the projects and the needs that we have. Now, keep in mind that these dates are best-case scenarios. Uncontrollable factors like rising construction costs could push projects even further out. Also, keep in mind that this is not something that the board has voted on. This just takes the plans for the facilities we know we have needs at and assign them this timeline. So, new construction. Southside Middle School is currently under construction as a part of pay-as-you-go and is scheduled to open in 2020. Williams Middle School, which is old, overcrowded, and prone to flooding, and doesn't have sufficient space to allow the IB program there to grow or to add 6th graders as part of the true middle school model we've committed to, is at least 5 years away from getting its relief. Savannah Grove, which is currently 3rd on the list, is at a minimum 7 years away. Briggs, which is another of our 1950s schools, built in '53, is 9 years out. And Timrod and Wallace Gregg is 11 years out. But as you start looking at our other needs, you start questioning things like schools like McLaurin, whose successful Montessori program is in such high demand we've had to turn away students, and it desperately needs a new wing. They can have it in 2032. Or Greenwood, where they hold PE in a mobile. We can address that in 2033. The board knew that there was a time when we would have to take action to meet our students' needs that cannot be accomplished by pay-as-you-go. And that time is now. If we follow this all the way out, we go to 2037. And as I mentioned before, since high schools cannot be addressed, we can't do anything with West Florence. So, the Facilities Committee and the board as a whole has been meeting over the past 6 months with the goal of crafting a plan that addresses our current facilities needs and provides an option for funding them. I'm here to present that proposed plan tonight. Does it meet every need? Nope. Can it anticipate our ever future need? No. No plan will ever be perfect. But what this plan does is offer something for every student, in every school, in every community in our district. And that's what I hope you will take away from this tonight. Every student, every school, and every community in Florence School District 1 will see real benefits from this plan. And if you do nothing else, I ask that you consider that, whether this plan accomplishes that goal. Does every student, school, and community in Florence School District 1 benefit? So let's take a look at the individual projects that would be funded as a part of this proposed plan. Again, I put Southside Middle School up here, not because it's included in this, but I just don't want anyone walking away from the meeting tonight thinking that we've left Southside out. It is being funded as a part of pay-as-you-go and is moving forward right now, so no matter what happens, that is our next school to be built and opened. The first school that would be funded and built would be Williams Middle School. We're going to be having community meetings to discuss the location of that new school. Savannah Grove is the next school. Both Williams and Savannah Grove would be accelerated so that they could occur simultaneously with Southside. Briggs Elementary is the first new school in Phase 3. It's the last of our 1950 schools, along with Wallace Gregg, by the way. But you'll notice that the budget for Briggs is considerably less than some of the other builds, and I wanted to just assure everyone that in no way is an indicator of the quality of the facility. It simply reflects that now, in a different economy, we can't take advantage of lower construction cost to build our schools larger for future growth and for future programs, and instead we're going to be focused on building specifically for the what is needed in the community. And Briggs is landlocked and growth there is limited, and by that location, so it doesn't need to be a 1,250 student school like Del May. So that's what's reflected in the lower cost. Timrod and Wallace Gregg is next. And this is an example of how we're trying to look at every solution available to us to serve our students and to be good stewards. These are two of our smallest schools, and they're located adjacent to one another, so we're proposing consolidating and building a new combined school. And as with Williams, we'll be having community meetings to discuss the location of the new school. Next is West Florence. And I'll just say it, we're under scrutiny for including a new West Florence. But here are the facts. West Florence is our oldest high school. It was built for 1,500, and we've got 1,800 in it. So it's our most overcrowded school in the district by 300 students. It has the most mobiles on site, 22, with no room to add more. We don't have room to expand. And it is our and law enforcement's single largest safety concern among school sites. You can't secure 22 mobiles. You can't secure a school like West Florence with the number of access points that it has. And so it is a serious safety concern. And all you have to do is take a brief drive around, just drive down Hoffmeyer, nowhere else, and you'll see that there continues to be significant residential construction underway in the West Florence attendance zone. And as I told you before, pay-as-you-go can never be used to address this situation. The only option that we have would be to rezone the high schools. And I'll talk about that a little more in depth in just a moment. Next up are the first of our major renovations. That's Wilson and South Florence High Schools. They'll both receive a number of renovations, ranging from new classrooms, the addition of a brand new construction, including an addition of to the gym at South Florence and an auxiliary gym and classrooms at Wilson, upgraded heating and air systems, plumbing, security upgrades, which are a component of all of our renovations, as well as cosmetic renovations. The fact is, we will never be in a position to build 3 new high schools simultaneously. But one of the goals of these renovations is to ensure that there is no great disparity in the amenities between each school. So, for example, when you have when all 3 high school projects are complete, they will each have 2 gyms. They'll also be using the latest in technology. Let me also address the price difference between South Florence and Wilson, and that is based on the simple fact that we will be able to take advantage of existing infrastructure on the South Florence campus after Southside moves that will save us some money, and we'll have to create that from scratch at Wilson. The board members in the breakout sessions tonight are going to be able to answer questions about your specific projects, so I just wanted to go ahead and mention that now. Phase 4 includes renovations to our remaining elementary schools and middle schools. All of these schools will receive necessary renovations and updates, including vital security upgrades. Again, new heating and air, plumbing, and cosmetic updates like painting. I'm not going to go into the details of each one here, but that will be available in the breakout session. But I will mention that some of our long-standing needs are going to be addressed at this point. For example, that we'll have an indoor multi-purpose room with a stage. We don't call them gyms at the elementary level anymore, apparently, for Greenwood, and a new wing at McLaurin to address the overcrowding caused by the success of the Montessori program. Sneed gets a much-needed parent pickup loop to take the car line off of Ebenezer Road, and in addition to address the undersized cafeteria. But again, yeah, sorry about that. But again, the takeaway is that every single one of our schools benefits. We've built 5 new schools, we have 21 total schools, and the 16 that are not new are on this list here tonight. Oops, that's not. Our final construction phase contains the Career Center, renovation, some slight renovations. I think it's heating and air primarily to Rush Academy, and a 3rd child development center to house our growing and successful early childhood education initiative. Finally, but by no means should we take the location of this in this presentation to reflect the importance, is technology. And this plan impacts technology in 4 major ways. First, all the new schools are being built with the latest technology in place, including what we call one-to-one, which means that they will have a digital device for every single student. Second, Infrastructure for technology is a component of each of the renovations. Third, we have $2.5 million in this plan for immediate technology needs. And then fourth, by funding our construction through this plan as opposed to pay-as-you-go, we free up $10 million a year that can be put towards ongoing technology needs and capital improvements. This will allow us to stay current not only with technology, but will also help prevent the district from digging another hole for itself by not keeping up its facilities. In short, at the end of this plan, every student in our district will be learning on a district-provided device like an iPad or a Chromebook, and we will be in a position to keep our technology current as we move forward. And every student will be doing so in a new or newly renovated school. Last year, we had public forums to discuss reconfiguration, which is simply the process of moving to a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade middle school model across the district. But under the current pay-as-you-go plan, there were going to be challenges, and you expressed your concerns. So we listened to you, and this plan solves nearly all of those issues. The first was that some folks thought that we were moving too fast, and they needed more time to prepare for the changes. Under the current plan, we could still move forward with the reconfiguration as soon as 2018, 2019. Under the plan that I'm proposing tonight, we would delay reconfiguration by 2 to 3 years. Now, that helps in another area that was a problem, because that allows us to get Southside and Williams built. And one of the other issues that came out during the forums last year were issues about moving the attendance lines for the middle schools, having to move children from the south side of town to the west side of town and then back. But with this plan, the middle school attendance zones do not change. As I mentioned before, if we stay with pay-as-you-go, the only way for us to address overcrowding at West Florence will be to rezone the high schools and send students from the west to South Florence and Wilson. And that's, quite frankly, a very, very short-term move to begin with, because there isn't that much extra capacity at the other schools. Neither of the other high schools is overcrowded at this point, but if we take 300 students this year and then split them up, both of those schools would be, and then we'd start talking about having to add more mobiles at all of our high schools. But under the proposed plan, there needs to be no changes to the high school attendance zones. And finally, although reconfiguration allows most, but not all mobile classrooms to be removed from elementary schools, middle schools and high schools will still require them. Under the proposed plan, nearly all mobile classrooms would be removed from all schools and at all grade levels, thanks to the combination of reconfiguration and new construction. Now, and I want to be very clear that I said most. I'm not saying that every mobile would be gone, and we've had a couple of schools where they've actually, the students are not in classes in the mobiles, but they've asked us to keep the mobiles, and they're using them for office space and other type things. So, but the plan would take care of this. Ultimately, we'd love to get totally out of the mobile business. Our students' needs are real and immediate, and our goal is to complete all projects in approximately 8 years. This means we're going to have multiple projects underway simultaneously. And although you've seen, I've presented this in phases, we're going to have projects of different scales going on at the same time. And so there may be some smaller projects that get completed ahead of some of the larger projects. We're going to have different scaled contractors bidding on these projects as well. So, there's going to be a lot of moving parts, and but the goal is to get everything done in 8 years. Now, I've been asked, what makes you think you can accomplish this? That's a lot, and it is. It's ambitious. My answer is to point to the 5 new schools we've built and 1 major renovation we've had accomplished accomplished over the past 5 years, all on time and under budget. Those are facts, and that's where I get my confidence from. And when you take a look at some of our neighboring districts who have tried less ambitious building plans and they haven't come out always quite as good. So I'm basing that confidence on what we have done. Now, all of this is dependent on whether our community thinks public education is a worthwhile investment. And that leads us to the $266 million question. And when you start looking at the projected cost for you, our taxpayers, the simple question to me is, what is it worth to us to transform our entire school district and impact every student that walks through our doors? Is it worth the cost of 1 combo meal at Chick-fil-A a month? What is it worth to elevate Florence in the eyes of the next Honda or Otis elevator? 1 dinner at one of our wonderful new downtown restaurants? Now, board members have the details about, when we start talking about this, there are a lot of different questions that people have. You've got, obviously, I'm showing the owner-occupied property values here, so that's your house. There are different numbers for non-owner-occupied, for commercial, and also for vehicles, which some people don't realize, but part of the vehicle tax goes to the schools as well. And the board members have the details about those and can share those with you in the breakout session. I'm going to ask our financial advisor to come up here and just give a brief statement. Mr. Mike Gallagher has been advising us on this, and he's going to be available. He's going to go to each of the breakout sessions and give you an opportunity to ask any specific questions related to millage and stuff like that. We also have with us our bond attorney, Mr. Ben Ziegler, and so he'll be able to answer any questions you have on this from a legal standpoint. Look, I'm a homeowner and a business owner, and my 3 children will all be Wilson graduates by the time we complete these projects. But I believe that we all benefit from Florence School District 1 being the best school district it can be. Not just those of us with children or grandchildren currently in the schools. Florence is a pretty good place to live, but I'm not satisfied with that. And I don't think you are either. And I can't think of a better way to ensure that Florence grows into the vital, competitive city we all want to live in than by investing in a strong foundation built on a great education for every student, in every school, in every community in Florence. I was, before I bring Mike up, I was asked by one of our well, no, I wasn't asked, I was told by one of our local leaders that now is not the right time. And I pondered that, and I came across this quote, and it summed up, my thoughts. I thought the best that they could be, that the time is always right to do the right thing. And I personally believe that this is the right thing. I might ask Mr. Gallagher to step up for a moment, and then I'll close and we'll head into our breakout sessions.
Thank you, Chairman Townsend. We've been working with the district, and the thing they came back to us was, how can we get these projects? We looked at the phases that you had and the length of time it would take, and every time I would come to a board meeting and make a presentation and give an update, they would want to know, when was that last project in phase 2 going to be done? When would they be able to move into phase 3? And there was always grumblings about the times that it would take to get to those projects. We were living within the constraints of the 8% debt limit. The South Carolina Constitution allows the school board to issue debt up to 8% of the total assessed value. The board has stayed at 32 mills, or been approximately close to 32 mills. That was a choice. They did not want to raise taxes. They came back and said, well, our needs continue to grow and grow and grow, and these projects continue to get pushed out further. What can we do? We talked with them. They came back with the numbers. We refined, moved up and down, looked at things from $150 to $350 million. They settled in working with their construction managers and administration to come up with this amount of $266 million of projects that are needed to touch every student, every school, and impact this community, and actually transform Florence. The fiscal impact on it would be that you would adjust from the 32 mills. We're projecting you would be at approximately 77 mills. One of the other components in there was making sure that this was a comprehensive plan that took care of these major construction needs and also provided funding for ongoing technology and capital maintenance. And so we'll be happy to answer questions as we move into the breakout sessions.
Now, obviously, I'm a really horrible person who just wants to raise your taxes. And I apparently masochistic because I want to raise my taxes too, is I guess the way we're thinking about this. But the fact of the matter is we can't raise your taxes and pay for these projects. And that's not what we're here to do tonight. We're not the federal, state, or even the county or city government. We are here to share this plan with you and then ask you to go to the polls and vote. We can't do it. You would have to do it. And so if giving you the choice that none of these other government bodies give you makes me to be the bad guy, so be it. But that's what we're asking. Take a look at this, study it, ask your questions, give us your feedback, and if we need to make adjustments, then we can look at doing that. But then it's your choice. And then the other thing that I've been told is that if we do this, we can't trust you guys to spend the money where you say you're going to spend it. And that's a great question, I think, for Mr. Ziegler. Because if we put this resolution out there and then it goes to a referendum and you vote, we are legally bound to do what is in that. And so you will have a checklist that you can go down and see, have we lived up to what we promised? And I know a lot of people were here tonight because they've already, before they came in here, they had already made up their mind they were against this. We've already received criticism from folks, and I can promise you they didn't know the plan because they hadn't been given the plan, but it was obviously horrible. Please just take a look at, ask your board members what you want to know. Ask why, ask how, and then you make up your mind. That is all I ask. And the worst case scenario out of this is that we give you another chance to decide. It's the worst thing that's going to happen. The best thing that could happen out of this is that we could absolutely transform our school district, and I believe Florence as a whole. But that choice is yours. Thank you.